a god. To wield the power of good and evil. That is your destiny.
The original black and white game sold really well, but the problem was that it sold mostly to non-gamers. So Peter Molyneux decided that he was going to make a version that would appeal to them even more. And the problem with non-gamers is that they're not familiar with a lot of the conventions and traditions that most hardcore RTS players are. So you're going to find that Black and White 2 is going to hold your hand a little bit more than the original game did. And in some ways that's good, and in some ways that's bad. You're still going to have the freedom to do what you want in the game, but things are going to be spelled out much more clearly for you. There's an extended tutorial that gets a little bit tedious, and there's some really clear objectives for every stage of the game. Now, while it's great to have things to do during the game, the problem with these objectives is that they're kind of soulless. They don't give you a real sense of involvement with people. Basically, the objectives tell you to gather wood, build certain buildings, but you don't get any real context. Fans of the first game remember the silver scrolls that you found all over the land. And these gave you really excellent story-based objectives where you actually got to get involved in the personalities of your worshippers. You got to find out what they were doing in their daily life and what sort of things they needed. You're going to get a lot less of that this time. You're going to get sort of these cold objectives where you're just told to gather a certain amount of resources or have your creature build a certain building. And you don't really get the same level of personality in this game that you got in the first one. One big improvement this time around, though, is that it's much easier to be evil. The first game sort of required evil players to undercut their support. You had to do things that basically screwed the game up for yourself. This time around, evil is going to be measured to the extent that you rely on your military to take over other towns. Good players are going to be more focused on city building, building nice improvements and trying to win people over through appeal, basically. Evil players are going to be more interested in taking over other towns by the sword and the torch. Now, war in the game is relatively easy to manage. It's a very big thing in this game. Basically, you'll turn your surplus population into infantry or archers, and then simply lead them around using unit flags. There's no complicated formation controls, no complicated upgrades. Basically, once again, the game is designed for non-gamers, so everything's made as easy as possible. Likewise, city improvement is very straightforward. You have a ton of overlays, a lot of pop-ups, and they tell you exactly what's going on at your city on pretty much every level. And you can drag and drop blueprints to create new buildings very easily. One of the problems is, though, that the game focuses a little too much on building. You're going to feel more like a mayor than a god. It's very much like playing a game like Pharaoh, where you spend a lot of time building buildings, and your strengths sort of arise out of your good city planning. Now, you do get cool god powers and an endlessly interesting and useful creature, but you might as well be playing a game like Pharaoh for all the city building you're doing. Luckily, the interface for this game is a dream. I swear I never once touched the keyboard while I was playing this game. The mouse allows you to do everything you need to do in the game, from moving the camera to leading your creature around to designing your cities. You can also see from all these visuals that the graphics are simply brilliant. There's a great sense of scale here. You can zoom all the way up and see the weather above the land and see all the mountains and rivers and valleys in the land, and zoom all the way down and see the individual faces on your worshippers. So there are a lot of great things to love about Black and White 2, but it's not going to be a game for everybody. If you're a really hardcore RTS player that's looking for a really specific kind of challenge, you're going to find that this game holds your hand a little bit too much. If you're looking for a really open-ended sandbox where you have a lot of freedom to do things that you want, Black and White 2 may just be the game for you.